Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Coffee and Football, presented by John Donovan and Longhorn Wealth Management Group. I'm your host, Blake Monroe, where I'm joined each and every day by Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton, the shaded Jerry Hamilton, as Texas remains #1 in the polls. Got to keep wearing your gutters there. But, guys, it was a big win this weekend over Oklahoma. Curious to get y'all's final thoughts on that game.
I don't know that I'm ever gonna have final thoughts, Jerry and Blake. I'm gonna remember this one for a while. Texas dominated the Sooners after the first quarter. Oklahoma did not get the ball into Texas territory after the first quarter until their final drive of the game. Look, 2 years ago was the most dominating game I've ever seen in the Red River rivalry on Texas's behalf. This is the second most dominating. So how's that? 2 out of the last 3 years, and I've been doing this 40 years. I've been alive for 55, but I've been watching Texas football 30 plus years. The 2 most dominant wins I've seen in school, even back when Brian Robinson decapitated Bomar, that was dominating. I get it. This one, these 2 of these last 3 have been just OU had no hope, big time.
One of my it talked about it going into the game, but it showed up even more. You want to see where the difference is in these programs now versus a few years ago? It's offensive line. Oklahoma had a run of first, second round, third round level offensive linemen, and they were much better on the offensive line than Texas was for years. Not anymore. Texas has flipped that on the offensive line, and there was a stark difference. Texas had the most pressures they've had all season, 30 against Oklahoma. 30. I don't care who your quarterback is. You get 30 pressures. If you're injured, wide receivers are injured, not going to matter. The offensive line is massive difference in those 2 programs right now. Texas has 2 first-rounders at tackle, multiple draft picks coming after this season, and Oklahoma is trying to put Bill Bedenbaugh in a position to be a miracle worker out of the portal every year. Not going to hold up. It's not the formula.
Let's see, Jerry, if it sustains, because this group of Texas offensive linemen is unique. 4 of the 5 were retained from a year ago. You added Cam Williams to the mix, who you've kind of thinking is going to be a first-round draft pick. My point being, let's see if this sustains, because next year Texas may be starting 5 new offensive linemen in this game, and Oklahoma will have 4 of 5 returning. My thought on that, though, is I don't think this Oklahoma offensive line is particularly talented, even if they become seniors.
Right.
Their 4 juniors become seniors and stay in starting positions. They're not the same talent level that they have been, to your point. But Texas next year, that the worm could turn there a little bit because Texas will likely be starting 4 or 5 new players on the offensive front. So we don't want to crow too much yet.
They got to do better at the high school level and develop these guys over time. That the portal stuff, if you have to go to it on the offensive line consistently, you're going to lack consistency, in my opinion. I don't think that's the formula.
Hey, I wanted to bring this tweet up, Jerry. You of course found it, but I think it's one that all Texas fans are going to like here. This is from Isaiah Bond's mom. And obviously she knows a couple things about rivalry, seeing her son playing them. But she says the Red River rivalry over the Iron Bowl. Sorry, my first Red River rivalry overall was an amazing experience other than my son's minor injury. The fair was huge. The rivalry was real. And let's just say I'm glad it was not a shootout.
Hey, my heart's glad it wasn't a shootout, too. I enjoyed that second half.
Yeah.
Usually I'm on pins and needles. I enjoyed the hell of that second half now.
I wanted to bring that up because it is time to get into the Georgia talk, but I wanted to bring this up because that's a mom whose son caught one of them iconic passes in that rivalry, the Iron Bowl last year in Auburn. And she's from Beaufort, Georgia. And she knows a lot more about the Auburn, Alabama history and the Georgia, Florida histories and stuff living in Beaufort, Georgia. And that's a pretty strong statement she made.
Yeah, good stuff there. All right, before we move on, Jerry, I'm going to let you tell everybody about Longhorn Wealth Management Group.
I don't. Does John want me to do it? The Gooders on for this read or not? I won't. Okay, we'd like to thank our sponsor, John Donovan, president of Longhorn Wealth Management Group. We ran into John Saturday in the State Fair, of course, and before every Texas home game. John's a certified financial planner who spent over 30 years providing investment, retirement, insurance, and estate planning services and solutions to Longhorn families and friends across the nation, coast to coast. John looks forward to celebrating the Longhorns' continued consensus #1 ranking with OTF fans at the tailgate this Saturday in Austin prior to the top 5 matchup versus Georgia, and wants to offer a free 90-minute consultation to all OTF fans to explore how Longhorn Wealth can help you maximize your wealth, minimize your taxes, secure your legacy. Secure your legacy, very important. So simply call John and his team at Longhorn Wealth at 972-707-4900 or go online at www.longhornwealth.net to secure your free consultation today. And I'm going to end this read with everybody gets the Gooders this week. Everybody. Texas is ranked 1.
Love it. Thanks, John.
And thank you, Jerry. All right, guys. Well, everybody's wanting to talk about Georgia, rightfully so. A big matchup this weekend against the #5 Bulldogs. And ESPN here giving Texas.
Bobby hates it.
I knew I wanted to just go right into it and skip the line. ESPN matchup predictor, according to ESPN Analytics, gives Longhorns a 76.2% chance to win. The line opened at 3.5 points for Texas, meaning they're the favorite. No movement there on the line with the over-under stuck at 56.5.
I mean, look, that matchup predictor saw the Georgia secondary against Mississippi State, I think. But look, it's going to be it's another offensive line game for Texas. Again, I know I sound like a broken record, but there's 4 or 5 games where you circled before the season. Said if Texas offensive line plays at a Joe Moore Award level, then I like their chances. This is one of those games. Now, look, in the preseason predictions, I picked Georgia to beat Texas. Georgia's lost to Ra Thomas, Colby Young now gone, Michael Williams, high ankle sprain, Tate Ratledge out. Something's different about this Georgia team. I don't know if the off the field is catching up with them a little bit, but talent-wise, still one of the top few in the country. Performance-wise, we'll see. Maybe they bring their best game Saturday, Bobby, but to this point this season, they have not played up to their talent level. And that's the first time I can say that about Georgia in a while.
They looked like they did in the first half against Mississippi State on offense.
Yeah.
So I finished, for those of you that were on the live stream last night with us or listened to the podcast afterwards, I watched the first half of the Georgia-Mississippi State game before the podcast last night. And then I watched, there was Mr. Sorrell, 88 is great. Congratulations to Barron. Great ending, a great cap to his career in the Red River Shootout. Congratulations to you and your son. But I wanted to say this. I watched the first half. And then after the live stream, I went and watched the second half. And Georgia's offense has guys that can really go. There's a reason they've had 2 or 3 consecutive #1 classes, Jerry?
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah, I mean, they've got guys, even with the attrition at receiver that they've faced with Ra Thomas and a couple other guys. They've got some dudes. I mean, they got what's his last name? Smith. I can't.
He's from Lakeland High. Was a 10-2 guy in high school. He's had inconsistent hands, but he can really run.
Oh, he can. He's going to take the top off of Texas at least once. It'll depend whether or not Beck can hit him, and whether or not Texas can do that. He just will. He's too fast not to. Anthony Evans, who is a kick returner for them, is now playing more wide receiver. They also have Dylan Bell, who is a really good all-around player, heady player, Landon Humphrey. And then Dominic Lovett was an all-conference player at Missouri before transferring to Georgia. And he's like he's a piece to the puzzle for this team. They've got really good tight ends. They've got good running backs. The question I have is, this is going to be, and I wrote this morning on Texas Football, guys. The Georgia offense will be the most talented unit Texas faces all year.
100% in regular season.
And I'm not talking about just offense. I'm talking about either side of the ball.
Yeah.
The most they may have 11 NFL starters. I'm just going to put that out there. On the offensive side of the ball, the guys that they have may end up being 11 starters. That's the reality. Now, the Georgia defense, and I wrote this as well, they were inconsistent on Saturday from what I saw. They had a really good first quarter, and then, you know what? It kind of looked like Oklahoma's defense against Texas. Really good first quarter, shut them out quick, got on top of them. And then OU's defense kind of didn't look great the rest of the way. Looked solid at times, but then they started getting pieced together and just beat up a little bit by the Longhorns. So, I think that the Georgia defense has been inconsistent. They'll try to do something different, but I really think this game is going to come down to the two quarterbacks, and who turns it over less, and then who makes the big throws and makes the great play calls, as well as just schemes his team to the best of their ability. Georgia last week, Jerry, for the first time I've watched them for, going on 4 years since they've really they were throwing outside screens to their wide receiver more than any I've ever seen them do that. I mean, they must have thrown 10 to 15 of those passes against Mississippi State.
Yeah, so Mississippi State couldn't get any pressure, by the way, at all in that game. It was clean pockets. Interesting thing with Carson Beck is from a release standpoint is he is kind of slower taking the ball back than he is. He's got a quick arm going forward and a little bit of a slower arm going back, which is interesting. You don't see that much in quarterbacks. And I've watched him a lot this season. And he has thrown some picks, and I almost think, if you're on top of your game, he may be half a split second behind what his eyes are seeing at times because he's a little slow taking that ball back. And just something to watch there. He's had some high interception numbers. But again, look, there's a couple of keys with the Georgia defense for me. They have had coverage busts this year. They've been very inconsistent, and they just haven't been sound. Malachi Starks is an All-American player. But the corners, everybody else around it, they haven't been sound. They've had busts this year, or they've just gotten beat over the top on a couple of occasions. Mississippi State has guys that can run. Mississippi State got behind Texas too in that game. And Sark said it in this presser, they have some fast guys. Where will Georgia play Jalen Walker, number 11, on Saturday? Do they feel like they have to get more pressure? Because they didn't get a lot of pressure against Mississippi State. Mississippi State's offensive line is not good. Because Georgia doesn't have the interior defensive players that they had in 21 and 22, and they were all first rounders, and they could just go smother everybody and dominate a game. They don't have that. They have a bunch of mid-late round picks, but they don't have the pass rushers in there. Jalen Walker, they play at middle linebacker a lot, but when they put him on the edge and tell him to go get it, he's one of the best pass rushers in the country. The deal is they don't do that much with him. So what are they going to do with Jalen Walker this game? Do they feel like they're going to have to get more pressure on Quinn in Texas? I think that's going to be interesting to see. The other thing that Georgia has, and I know people were talking about it before the Michigan game, I think Georgia's got the best combo of running backs that Texas has faced this year. Etienne's a solid player, will be a mid-round draft pick, but the freshman Nathan Frazier, while he's got to continue to make strides in pass pro, when they hand him the football, man, he's real deal. He's a high NFL draft pick talent. A guy ran 10.55 in high school out of modern day. He can really pick him up and put him down. And he's also a true running back. The other thing, Bobby mentioned the wide receivers. Anthony Evans, the one wide receiver and kick returner for Georgia's from Converse Judson. Dylan Bell, who's more in the DeAndre Moore mold, maybe a little better after the catch. He's from Kincaid. Texas actually took a late look at him And that family always wanted to be at Texas, but Texas was really late, and I'm not sure they made the big push there at the end.
All right.
Anthony Evans can roll, by the way.
He's 10-6 in high school.
Yeah, he can roll. He may be getting faster.
Yep.
Texas. I will say this: Texas needs to kick the ball out of the end zone. I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
On kickoffs.
We're getting a lot of questions about injuries and where things stand with that, guys. And so that kind of brings me to our next thing here. Sark obviously meets with the media here in just a little bit. What all are y'all expecting from that? What are you hoping to hear and everything?
Well, we may get an update on Derek Williams. That's the one we're really looking for right now. The young man out of New Iberia, Louisiana, was injured on a first kickoff of the third quarter, I think, is when he went down. Tough injury there for him. But we have not heard one way or the other. We think it might be a knee. We will see what Sark has to say, if anything, today. We do expect Isaiah Bond to be able to go on Saturday, although he what I'm told, it was an ankle. Other than that, I have not heard of anybody that played on Saturday that will not be available on this coming Saturday. So really monitoring two major pieces, Isaiah Bond and Derek Williams. We feel very strong about Isaiah Bond. I am in the dark right now, frankly, about Derek Williams, which is unfortunate. That's usually not a good sign, to be honest.
Yeah, and on Isaiah Bond, I mean, look, I think Sark will say, we kind of expect him to say he's going to practice, see how he monitor him throughout the week of practice. But the key with an Isaiah Bond is the Isaiah Bond that's 4.28 to 4.3 is what Texas needs against Georgia, because Georgia will have they'll have issues covering him. But if Isaiah Bond's a 4.6 guy, he's a different player. So that's going to be the thing is, Isaiah Bond's going to give it a go in this game. I mean, it's Georgia. He's from Buford. Okay. He wants to play in this game now, but what Isaiah Bond is that going to be? And I guess we won't really know till later in the week.
And we got a couple
by the way, King Me has a great one, by the way.
What you got?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Jake Majors got extremely lucky late in that game because that could have been a bad one. And it was good to see Majors get up from that when somebody fell into the side of his right knee, I believe that was right leg. But you could tell that guy missed the game last year. They would have had to take him out on a stretcher. He wanted to celebrate at the end of that game.
All right, we got a couple of super chats that I wanted to read to you guys real quick here. And MP Houston says, to paraphrase the great poet and philosopher Brett Belima, that OU beatdown was borderline erotic. And then, by the way, thank you, MP Houston. And then thank you to Fred 90s Caddy Johnson. He says, y'all can't tell it, but I'm smiling. Hook 'em.
I haven't wiped my smile away for 2 days, so I get it.
Who did you caddy for? I need to know that. You don't have to super chat that. Just answer
it. And then Damon Graham says, great to see you guys this weekend. Thanks for taking the time to meet my wife and daughter. You guys are awesome. Hook 'em.
Damon is nice to meet you.
Yeah. Damon Graham, former high school defensive coordinator. Hey, throw it in the chat. What are your thoughts, man? What do you got this week for us, Damon?
And then one other one here. Tub in Texas says Texas has outscored OU 113-37 the last 3 games.
Ooh. Rod talked about this last night, and I agree with him at length. OU is suffering from offensive identity right now. And we all talked about this last night and made this comparison. Is Jackson Arnold OU's Garrett Gilbert?
If there's some similarities.
There are, because he's a heavier set quarterback that doesn't necessarily run real well and needs a cleaner pocket to really be effective. And right now, OU doesn't have the offensive line to make that happen. So they went to a different quarterback. We'll see if Rod's right. They're lacking an offensive identity that makes sense for them. Now, maybe Brent Venables goes out this offseason and makes a change. But if they do, he better get it right. or else they may end up like Texas and just
Yeah.
consistently switching things up and not having an offensive identity, and then you don't know what you are every year. So OU's on the precipice there. They've got to make the right hire this offseason, in my opinion.
All right. Lots of recruiting questions also rolling in, Jerry. So before we get to those specifically, what's the latest with recruiting? What's the pulse on it after Saturday's big win?
Well, there's been some questions. Any reaction from recruits at the Red River rivalry on the Oklahoma side? I mean, not for me. I mean, like, there's one guy in the Oklahoma 2025 class that if he called Texas and said, "Hey, man, can we talk?" there would be something there, and that's Michael Fasusi. I talked to somebody very close to that last night and just doesn't think that's going to happen. He has not been in contact with Texas. So we'll see if that changes because Oklahoma, look, things would get ugly for Oklahoma really is if they lost to South Carolina at home this weekend. Then stuff gets really ugly in recruiting because then people are going to start questioning if Brent Venables should be fired. That's when stuff gets tough in recruiting. Remember it with Billy Napier last year. Xavier Filsaime, Wardell Mack. Those guys are just like, man, I don't know if this guy's going to be here. Is he going to survive this? That's when recruiting gets ugly. But fallout from that game, no. I'm more concentrating on Georgia. And we have the updated visitors list. And I added names to that late last night. We're now 40 plus combined 5 stars, 4 stars in the 25, 26, 27 classes that are going to be here. And by the way, the number one running back in the state and one of the best in the country, Micah Rhodes from Klein Oak, who everybody's offered, Ohio State, Ole Miss, Oklahoma, you name it, they've all offered him. He's going to be at the game Saturday. That's Bobby Rhodes' nephew, I believe, or maybe Bobby Rhodes' his grandfather, one of the all-time sack leaders at Texas. But this visitors list, I mean, look, Michael Terry, Javian Hilson, Joseph Mbach to official visit, Jonah Williams' official visit, Kevin Wynn, Walter Mathis, as people still say he's coming in, Justice Terry, 5-star D lineman from Manchester, there at Georgia. Those are on the list. Riley Pettijohn, see if he makes it in. Of course, all these guys won't make it in. Something inevitably happens, but the majority of these guys are expected in. Kelshawn Johnson still says he's coming in. We'll see on that. Texas, Nick Brooks is coming in with the Loganville Grayson guys, and Bach to the 5-star 2026 linebacker Tyler Atkinson. The commitments. Elijah Barnes is coming in. Myron Charles, Josiah Sharma, Lance Jackson, Caleb Chester, Nick Townsend, Nick Brooks, Devin Coleman, Jordan Coleman. All these guys are coming in. John Mills and maybe Dia Bell in 2026. Zealous Hicks, who's currently in 26 to safety. Amari Latimer, one of the top running backs in the country out of Tyrone, Georgia, Sandy Creek, who Tashard Choice stopped by and saw last week. Javian Osborne told me he's coming in. Jabari Mack, stud receiver out of Destrehan, Louisiana, says he's coming in. Caden Dixon White, 4-star receiver out of Mater Dei in 2026 is coming. I mean, I can keep going. And John Turntine, the 5-star offensive lineman, the junior from North Crowley, has confirmed he's coming in. So the visit list, and I could go on, man, but we only have an hour show here. And I expect this list to continue to expand. It wouldn't shock me if we didn't get up close to 50 combined 5 stars and 4 stars in 3 classes coming in for this game. I actually got a text and said, I think everybody in the state wants to be at this game. and I do think this too. I think there will be a surprise or two.
Hope so. We need a surprise or two because
look, we're monitoring them.
Yeah. Could really use a couple different positions at this point in time, in my opinion.
Yep. All right, Bobby, before we move on, I'm going to let you tell folks out there about one of our newest sponsors.
Yeah, really excited to bring this group on. Someone that I've worn and been wearing for a number of years. We'd like to welcome a new sponsor to On Texas Football, Tecovas. Texans know that anywhere worth going is worth going in good boots. Tecovas are handcrafted with every stitch on point. Tecovas boots are made for a good time and a long time. I love the fact that they're already broken in for comfort right out of the box. You don't have to worry about that. And then Tecovas makes it easy for anyone to find their favorite boot with all kinds of styles and sizes, including wides. Tecovas are simply the best boot around. I really like that they can either be daily boots or you can feel dressed up with them. Right now, get 10% off at tecovas.com/Texas Texas Football when you sign up for email and text. That's 10% off at TECOVAS.com/Texas Football. With Tecovas Best in the West guarantee, you also get free returns and exchanges for 30 days. That's a special offer there. Tecovas.com/Texas Football. See the site for details. Tecovas, point your toes west, young man.
Thank you, Bobby. And
I'm excited about that sponsor. You can tell.
Yes, absolutely. Hey, by the way, so I mentioned Riley Pettijohn scheduled to be in. We'll see on that one. People are asking about Devin Sanchez. Devin said last night he's not coming in. We'll see if it changes. But those we'll see. We'll monitor throughout the week.
Good stuff. And we got more recruiting questions we'll get to here in just a little bit, guys. We have a few more super chats need to read as well. Jose Rodriguez says, I watched the Eichert/Lehman show, and they said that the size and speed and violence on both sides of Texas versus what OU has is alarming. What's the biggest advantage?
O-line. O-line. More than speed, even. I also think that the OU secondary is a little overrated based on what I saw. A lot of Texas receivers running wide open. Pass rush for OU is overrated. Texas is just better, and there can be strange bounces in that game, and that's what I was worried about. Silas Bolden made me jump up off the bleacher, though, when that happened. So I feel like Lehman and Eichert both probably said the right things. I saw a tweet from Eichert that kind of said, "Hey, Anthony Hill had a great performance." So, and I wrote this in a tweet. Eichert took the L the right way by admitting he was wrong. Look, Texas was a better team than OU. Faster, yes. More physical, yes. Particularly on the offensive line. I mean, Texas did not let them touch Quinn Ewers for 3 quarters. After that first quarter, OU didn't get close to Quinn Ewers the rest of the game. Anybody recall a single time? Didn't get close after the first quarter. They didn't get close to They didn't get close to Texas territory, or they didn't get in Texas territory on offense until the fourth quarter. So, I mean, that was as dominating a performance as you'll see from the Longhorns in that game.
Chad Wilson has a question. Can I wear my Tecovas while you manscaping? Oh, yeah, but you got to watch. You have to turn those boots upside down afterwards. So that's the. All right. Somebody's asking about Dory Brew. We'll see. Oregon beats Ohio State. Look, that one is one that probably is a slightly better chance than Sanchez, but we'll see what happens. But look, Texas is deep sea fishing at corner, and they're fine. They're going to go that way, and if not, they'll go to the portal.
We got another super chat. This one from Longhorn Nation. It says, with the lack of accountability and leadership by Bowman and Stutzman after the game, it pretty much sums up where OU is as a program. A lot of people didn't like Billy Bowman's comments afterward.
They think they're better than they are. That's the problem. I mean, they beat Texas last year in part because Dylan Gabriel was their quarterback. Not because Danny Stutzman was their linebacker. I'll just be honest. Billy Bowman, really good player. But, is he a real run fill guy? I don't know. He's gonna play in the NFL. I don't know how long. Because I'm not sure he fills the run like they want.
He lacks Quandre Diggs' physicality.
Yes. He's got that kind of playmaking ability at times.
Right. Yep.
But he doesn't. He's just not that. He's not a physical player.
Yeah.
I mean, look. I mean, Trey Wisner ran through some tackles on Saturday. Let's give that man a hand. I mean, he had a whale of a game because partially he was bouncing off some OU linebackers and safeties. I mean, he ran through Robert Spears Jennings.
Yeah.
On that long touchdown run. Ran through it.
Yeah.
Had him dead to rights.
We got a few more super chats regarding OU. This one here from John. John says Sooner Magic does exist. It made all their fans disappear at the end of the third quarter. Well, it's pretty empty by then. Thank you, John.
It exists.
You know what?
It exists. It just retired with Bob Stoops for a while.
I want to say this. I love and I posted one on the message board yesterday at On Texas Football. I absolutely love when they do the fan shots in the fourth quarter and Texas is up by 31 points. Because not necessarily the fan shots in Texas, because everybody's euphoric, obviously. But when you show the OU crowd, it just and they look so debilitated. I mean, just I don't know. Maybe it's the hater in me at some level that loves to see that, because they just look so despondent, and you know in your heart of hearts that you've felt that way before too. And to watch somebody else have to endure it in that contest, that can be okay by me, I guess is the best way to put it.
Oh,
It's a good question. That was a good question right there.
Oh, the super chat.
No, just Jackson.
Well, this is actually Jackson's super chat because he put in the wrong question a minute ago. But he says, Jackson, thank you for the super chat. He says, what position battle could be a concern versus Georgia?
That's a good question. Bobby, they use 3 different tight ends. Lawson Lucky, the sophomores, become their guy. Oscar Delp, but then Urasets to transfer. He got a big catch Saturday. Now Mississippi State is bad on defense, one of the worst pass defenses in America. I think they're ranked 117. So they're one of the worst Power 5 pass defenses. I mean, everybody's completing at 80% against them. But Georgia's has multiple tight ends they use in the game. You know, Michigan had Colston Loveland, right? So are they going to do some misdirection with multiple tight ends in this game? That's something I'm watching for because I do think Texas gets more pressure on Carson Beck than Mississippi State ever could imagine or think they could. So what does Georgia do to counter that?
There's 2 pieces that I think are the mismatches potentially. The offensive front of Georgia versus the interior front of Texas. So not pass rush, Jerry, to your point. I think Texas is going to be fine there.
Yeah.
But that run-stopping defensive line, and that includes the Texas linebackers. I think that's one of the ones that I'm looking for. And then I will say this will be a major test of the Texas safeties. Georgia has a couple of guys that can get on top of you. I mean, really get on top of you. And so from my vantage point, those are the 2 that I'm most worried about. I feel fairly confident in the Texas offense at this point. I do want to see, what this means with Isaiah Bond. But frankly, Jerry, I thought Ryan Wingo played pretty well in his place.
Oh yeah,
I think that we'll see where this goes. But I think that the 2 places where you worry are their interior offensive line versus the Texas defensive front in the run game. And then the Texas safeties being able to cover over the top against some guys that can really, really run. Those are the 2 spots. And they've got a quarterback that can get the ball there.
By the way, we're adding another big-time visitor. Blake, can you bring up this tweet?
I'm trying to get there.
Come on, Blake. I short notice. Look, this is when you know Texas is playing a big game in recruiting. This is Noah Clark just tweeted this out right when our show started. Noah Clark is out of Durham, North Carolina, one of the top defensive linemen in America in the 26 class, 6'3", 320, coming in from Durham to Austin for the Texas-Georgia game. That tells you all you need to know about this game in recruiting. That's a top 100.
It says 6'3", 320. Is he a D-line or O-line? Because
that's what I said. He's an interior defensive lineman, one of the best in the country. He is from Durham, North Carolina, Jordan High School, and he is now coming in for the game. You know it's this game has gone to another level in recruiting when kids from North Carolina start showing up in Austin.
That's bizarre.
Now, look, but I will say this. Texas is going to be recruiting more than one defensive lineman in North Carolina in 26. It is a tremendous year on the defensive line in the state of North Carolina in that 26 class. So there's too many good ones for Texas not to go recruit a couple of them and give it a shot. That's a deep, talented 26 class of D linemen. Like the state of Alabama had one like that a couple of years ago. Yeah, Georgia's
got one this year.
Yeah, Georgia. I was going to say Georgia's pretty much like that every year, but North Carolina in 26 is like state of Alabama was a couple of years ago. Texas is going to recruit these guys. They're really good. But again, this tells you what the level this game's at from a recruiting perspective. How many guys from Durham, Jordan High have visited Texas for a game? You're looking at him.
So I need help. Actually, I need some help here from the crowd and the group here of On Texas Football. I don't know that Texas has ever signed a high school player from the state of North Carolina. Now, I mean, ever is obviously a long time. But in my 30 plus years, I literally cannot recall a single player from I know of two from South Carolina.
Yeah,
Rock Alexander and Puna Ford, but I can't remember a single one ever from the state of North Carolina, Jerry.
Nah, North Carolina beat us on Michael Jordan. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm talking about football. Is anybody
Sandman 223? We signed Mac Brown in 98. That was pretty good.
Yeah, that was a big one.
I'm gonna look it up. Give me a little bit.
Please. If anybody knows, and I'm just
yeah, football, no. Basketball, PJ Tucker. Durham.
Yes. Yeah.
That's it. Raleigh, Durham. That's it, not football. Christian Kruger. Puna was Hilton Head High in South Carolina. I went to see him in high school. And I'll never forget the guy when he put his arm out to shake my hand. I was over recruiting rankings at 24/7. I literally looked at his coach and I said, that's the longest arms I'll ever see on a 5'11" person in my life. Puna Ford had the longest arms. When I went to Hilton Head High to see him, I will never see a 5'11" person with arms that long again, ever.
Oh, man. All right, guys, we got more to talk about, more questions, more super chats. We're going to get to all that here momentarily. But first, we need to tell you about a couple of sponsors. And, Bobby, I'm going to let you start with BetterHelp.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk a little bit more about the Georgia Bulldogs and the Oklahoma Sooners as well. But before we do that, this episode of On Texas Football is brought to you by the folks at BetterHelp. There are a lot of helpful apps out there, but it would be difficult for any of them to be more useful than BetterHelp.com. BetterHelp is an app that helps those in need find the help they deserve. Maybe you're having personal issues that you just can't figure out. Maybe you've experienced major trauma in the past or recently lost a loved one. Maybe you get caught up comparing yourself to someone else. Whatever the case may be, if you're considering beginning therapy as an option, you'll want to check out BetterHelp.com. BetterHelp is entirely online. It's designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. So no matter what your own previous experience with therapy may be, check out BetterHelp.com today. Overcome your fears with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/OnTexas to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/OnTexas.
Thank you, Bobby. And I also want to let everyone out there know about Factor. And sweater weather pairs perfectly with savory fall foods, but with your busy schedule, sometimes it's hard to eat the way that you would like to. That's where Factor comes in. Their chefs do all the shopping and all the chopping to bring you fresh, never frozen, fully cooked meals right to your doorstep. All you have to do is heat and eat. And when it comes to meals, everyone wants the same thing: options. That's why Factor offers 35 wholesome meals every week, so you'll always find something that you love that suits your lifestyle. And of course, there's more to Factor than just lunches and dinners. From easy breakfast and smoothies to those midnight snacks that maybe you try to hide from your spouse, Factor has over 60 plus add-ons to keep you fueled and focused 24/7. And with a ton of flavors, you're never going to get bored. I promise you, once you try it, you'll be hooked. Head to factormeals.com/Texas50. Use promo code Texas50, and they're going to give you 50% off your first box and 20% off your next month. That's code Texas50 at factormeals.com/Texas50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off next month.
Hey, Blake, thank you for doing that read. Let's get straight into something that CJ Vogel brought up to the message board yesterday, if you don't mind. And that is snap count for OU, because there were some interesting developments in that regard. Let's look at the defensive snap counts first. I want to go to offense next. But of all of these, Jerry, my one singular surprise, or actually there were two singulars. No, there were two surprises. The amount of snaps Jelani McDonald got, he outsnapped Andrew Makuba on Saturday.
That's also impacted by Derek Williams' injury a little bit, I would think.
I know, but still, he outsnapped Andrew Makuba, and then Leonga Lafau. I mean, McDonald also outsnapped Michael Taff. He had more snaps than any safety. Is that because they wanted to stop the run? Because he could get the more speed on the field, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, he also played some at the nickel, right?
Yeah.
So they played him a lot at nickel against Michigan. So, I mean, look, July, and we said that one of the things about the Mississippi State game, kind of the hidden game within the game there, was Derek Williams and Jelani McDonald are probably Texas' two most physical guys against the run at the safety position. And that hurts Texas. That hurt Texas against Mississippi State because McDonald very extremely limited. Obviously, Derek Williams didn't play with the hamstring. Just something to take into account there because Georgia's going to be physical. The Derek Williams injury is going to put, assuming he's out and it didn't look good, is going to put more on Jelani McDonald's plate in that regard for me. And then he also is the number 2 nickel. You also see there, look, Alfred Collins at 41. He's seen the most double teams of any Texas defensive lineman on the interior this year. And I think sometimes you look at box scores or stats, and if that guy's facing a lot, and it also tells you, how much he's actually playing on that defensive line spot in comparison. But Anthony Hill's, the thing that stands out to me, Anthony Hill's production at 41 snaps is off the charts. Off the charts.
1 out of every 4 plays he's in on is a tackle.
Yeah.
He had 11 tackles, 7 solos, 3.5 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, and a forced fumble. I'd say you're right. I'd say you just made the comment of the day. The other one was Leonga Lafau, Jerry. I felt like they wanted Leonga Lafau in the middle so they could let Anthony Hill and Colin Simmons roam.
Yeah.
And be spies. Do you agree with that sentiment?
Yeah, and I think, look, Anthony Hill's the best linebacker on the Texas team. No doubt, highest draft pick, all of it. Playing middle linebacker between the hashes, between the tackles, whatever you want to, however you want to, how far you want to take it. Lafau is the most instinctive guy against the run. He's extremely instinctive. He reads things and diagnoses extremely well. He's just played it so much, but he's also really natural at it. So I think this maximizes Texas defense is Lafau playing that run in between the hashes, and he's natural in coverage over the middle of the field. I think once things get outside the hashes, Texas has some faster guys to chase sideline to sideline, but he is so good in between the hashes and in between the tackles. That definitely frees up Anthony Hill. And that's kind of you're going to see more things from Texas. They haven't had to bring out much this year because they hadn't played a good quarterback or a high-level offense yet. They are this week. You'll see more stuff come out from Texas this week defensively. We haven't seen yet.
25 defensive players played at least 15 snaps.
Yeah.
That's quite a bit too. Let's look at the offensive snaps, if you don't mind now. This one, I wanted to say something a little different. We always talk about the receiver room at Texas and how Sark has historically only used 3 guys a lot. It looks like it may be tightening a little bit now. That circle of trust. Clearly, Matthew Golden is in that. He had more snaps than any receiver on the day. Ryan Wingo and DeAndre Moore next in that group. Isaiah Bond had just 19, but that's also because he went out in the second quarter. Silas Bolden had more than Jonte Cook, Jerry. And Jonte Cook had the same amount as Ryan Niblett. So maybe that circle of trust is tightening, and maybe right now Silas Bolden may be moving into it a little bit.
And he just elevated Saturday.
He sure as hell earned my trust if he didn't earn anybody else's.
He elevated Saturday. And that's what happened there. Again, and look, and if Silas Bolden wasn't there for the spring, that's what we kind of said going into fall camp was, look, DeAndre Moore, Jonte Cook, they're the most experienced receivers in the scheme headed into fall camp. But if they left the door cracked open a little bit, a guy like Silas Bolden, who wasn't there for spring, it may take him a little longer to pick things up. But once he does, watch out. And you're kind of seeing some of that come through right now. Obviously, Isaiah Bond's injury got Ryan Wingo on the field more. I think it'll be interesting to see as this season moves along. I think this is probably the area we're going to stay in with Isaiah Bond playing more snaps, obviously. But I think this is what we're going to kind of see at the wide receiver spot moving forward. The other thing was DJ Campbell, 47 snaps, and Cole Hudson, 17 on Saturday. I think you'll see there'll be some games where that's closer, but that was, look, Texas, that right side in the run game, and then plus Kelvin Banks and Texas in the run game. There's something to be said. DJ Campbell has that little, it's different, but a little Casey Studdard to him, which is important.
Yeah. Hey, I gotta say this on the run game. You talked about Kelvin Banks. If you get a chance and go back and watch the Trey Wisner run for the first one that he breaks open up the middle, that's kind of a cutback run. Kelvin Banks literally lays out almost horizontal to the ground to move a defensive lineman out of that hole. I mean, it is an impressive block for a guy to really just give everything he's got. Huge human being, literally or horizontal to the ground to move number 40 for OU out of that hole. It gave Trey Wisner a really clean look at that hole and allowed him to make a move on the second level that left the OU grasping air. It was a team win. Kelvin Banks having a great one right now. Kabir Hussein's asking anything up with Jonte. Didn't see him play. Obviously, he played some. I just wonder if this. That's why I wanted to bring this snap count stuff up. I wonder if the circle of trust is tightening, and Jonte, after dropping the pass against Mississippi State, and maybe not being as good a blocker as some others, might be losing ground. He's a good player, but Sark's trying to be a great team, not a good team. And so, Jonte will have his chances again this year. But let's see where that all ends up. It's 420 somewhere. It says the wide receiver room needs its flowers for their blocking against OU. They were engaged. That Wisner TD had key blocks from Helm, Moore, and Wingo. Yeah, Wingo was running down the side with him and actually kept that guy from having an angle on Wisner's touchdown run. And then obviously Silas Bolden was 15 yards behind the play at one point in time after blocking in the backfield for Trey Wisner, and then still got to a touchdown. DeAndre Moore had a really nice block on a quick pass in the flat to Jaden Blue. That was a good first down in the second half. Look, Steve Sarkisian doesn't really play in this category. You either do what he asks you to do as a wide receiver, or he's going to find someone else that will. They've got other guys that can run. Silas Bolden can run. Ryan Wingo can run. DeAndre Moore. So you either do what he asks, or I think maybe the Matthew Golden being that high on that list, though, tells you a little something about Matthew Golden as well. he may be the consistent one of the group. You know, even though DeAndre Moore is the youngest and maybe trying to be that most consistent right now, Matthew Golden may be that guy for you.
I want to say, yes, totally agree. I want to say something on this Georgia game. It's a thought I had as well, because we've had a lot of comments in the chat. We're going to know Saturday where this Georgia program is really at right now. If Georgia, who won 2 of the last 3 national championships, lost 1 game last year, there's an SEC championship game, else they're right back in the playoff again. They already have, they almost lost to Kentucky. They lost at Alabama. They did not play well defensively against Mississippi State. If Texas doesn't get Georgia's absolutely best game of the season Saturday night, then this Georgia program's taking a step back. I'll officially say it. Because this is a scenario where Georgia should deliver their best game of the season. They were pushed to the limit against Kentucky. They lost at Alabama. They did not look good defensively against Mississippi State. If they don't bring their best effort by far and play their best game by far that we've seen this year, they got issues inside their program a little bit. I'm not going to play around with that statement. This is clear as day. They should play their best game of the season Saturday against Texas, because it's all on the line for them. This is almost a win or go home in a way for them, because if they lose this game, then they still have at Ole Miss, and I know Ole Miss lost again, and then Tennessee, because Ole Miss is playing for their life the rest of the season, playoff life, and then at Tennessee at home. If they lose this game, they have 0 margin for error.
Or they're going to have to back in.
Yeah, I mean, everything tells you if Georgia's going to be a contender this year, they bring their best game of the season Saturday. If they don't, things are catching up with them. I'll throw it out there.
Yeah. No. If they lose, if Texas beats Georgia on Saturday, I'm convinced that it will be because of offensive play calling and quarterback play. Convinced. Because I think Georgia has, they've got great pieces to the puzzle. Not good pieces, great pieces. They are extremely, extremely talented. Hey, I got some other thoughts and news and notes for everybody out there. Rob asked Bobby, what's going on pregame in Austin with On Texas Football? We have several different things going on for this week, obviously with the big game coming up. We're actually in town on Thursday. On Thursday, Rod Babers, Jerry, and myself will be at the Hole in the Wall down on the drag with Bert Auburn. We're going to be doing the winning drive from the Hole in the Wall on the drag. Bert Auburn's going to be there also signing autographs. Jerry's picture didn't get on this because he didn't tell me he was coming until late last week. But this is the poster for Hole in the Wall. That happens from 6 to 8 on Thursday. Come down. Bert Auburn will be there meeting and greeting and doing autographs. They'll have a band there as well. Then also on Friday, we're obviously at the Co-op. We'll be there from 3 to 4 pregame. Come join us, hang out. And then on Saturday, obviously, we will have our tailgate again. We'll get you guys information there. There is going to be a charge for that tailgate because we have so many people coming. I think it's going to be $20. I'm not sure exactly. But Duck Camp will be out there. They're going to be providing a ton of refreshments. Obviously, we also will have them giving away a huge gift card, and we'll just be out there all day long doing our regular stuff that we do pregame with On Texas Football. Should be a hell of a day and a hell of a week for the Longhorns. I'm getting into town on Thursday. Can't wait to really get out there and get going. Should be a lot of fun.
I'm challenging Bert Auburn to a paper football contest. You know, like he used to play. No, he can kick with his foot. Let's see if he can kick with his finger. Paper football. Hole in the ball for all the marbles.
That will be better than your corn dog and mayo that you did on Saturday.
I don't know if anything like that
was bad.
I'm glad you brought that up because that was actually going to be the next super chat from Longhorn Frenzy 1. He says the big question of the day is, did Jerry get his corn dog with mayo?
Oh, I did. And there is a couple of photos out there we'll never bring up. But yes, it happened. And I did like it. I enjoyed it just as much as I did as a kid. I hadn't had that in a while, honestly. But, I don't know. I own it. I sit up here and own it. And I enjoyed it. And I'll do it again next year. I'll eat 2 next year if it means 50-3.
What I thought was funny out of all that, obviously Jerry did his bit with the mayo. I can't say that I watched it. I tried to avert my eyes, but I thought it was hilarious that Sark goes in to the post game press conference with a Fletcher's corny dog right there in front of it. That was a classic for the Texas OU rivalry. Really a fun stuff there that Texas. I think Sark may have been getting on Brent Venables there because Brent said he was going to have one if OU won.
Yeah.
So Sark took it his own way.
Oh, Brent got one all right, but not the way he wanted it. All right. Hey, the other thing about the Texas Georgia game, I know a lot of people in this chat or at the some of us. I was there, Texas Alabama in 2022. That was a day game. I think this may be the best home atmosphere Texas has had since when?
Notre Dame or LSU.
And I think, and I think it's going to eclipse them both because Texas is ranked 1 and just beat OU. I think this is going to be the best home atmosphere since 2005.
I thought Notre Dame game was an unbelievable atmosphere.
It was.
So, I look. I don't know what it's going to be. I know it's going to be 6:30 prime time on ABC. You got plenty of time to get lubricated with a few drinks. It's not a 2:30 game where you have to worry about it being 100 degrees. Texas fans, please show up. I would not be surprised if it is a record attendance, by the way, for this game, setting an all-time record. So everybody, I know these tickets. I mean, Blake, tomorrow, if we get a chance, we need to show what SeatGeek or StubHub or one of those and how much the tickets are going for, because that's always interesting stuff for people to see just how expensive these tickets are getting, because it is as hot a ticket as you will find.
By the way, I had some fun late last night because I couldn't sleep as normal. I was looking at hotel prices in Austin. In F1, obviously this weekend, if you want to stay within 2.5 miles of campus, anywhere downtown, you aren't getting a hotel room for less than $775. That's before your ticket.
Wow. You're talking about that could be La Quinta.
That can be anything that has a room left. Is nothing less than $775 up to, I saw 1,400 to even 2,400 a night, but that's 4 seasons, I think, maybe. But nothing less than $775 a night.
That looks like upper tier, upper deck. The lowest one I see is 414. That upper tier, 406 there at the very top. Wow. 1,500 for 50-yard line seats right now. 2,200 for right underneath the overhang on the east side. A little bit overhang.
Yeah.
24. Holy cow, dude. Man, so people are spending some Benjamins on that one.
Yeah, to say the least.
Woo. Oh, hey, BJS has a great one. I know we got to get the super chats, but dude, this is really, really good. Hold on. The chat's moving so fast. BJS. I've been trying to think of a stylistic comparison for LaFau. He's basically Nick Bolton. Interesting. Very interesting comment right there. I like it. Not saying he's going to be that level, but he is that type of instinctive backer between the tackles. Bolton may be a little thicker.
Bolton's the one from Missouri that now plays for the Chiefs.
From Frisco, Lone Star High. Yep.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know that he's as sudden as Bolton is as a tackler either.
Yeah.
Like, I think he has, I don't know. Very sure tackler, though.
Yeah.
He's still growing, by the way. He's still getting stronger. So I think he'll end up being stronger as the years go.
Definitely not a finished product.
Right. So LaFau has some, I mean, man, whatever he has between his ears for football, for the game of football, it works.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Some people maximize and you can just tell they're going to by the way they play the game. He's one of those.
All right, guys. GB in Austin, thank you for the super chat. He says, making what can be seen as an outrageous or overhyping statement. But if not for losses to the NFL, this Texas defense is close to the 1984 team. Hook 'em.
Yeah, I mean, right now they're running better than that team. I mean, 3 touchdowns through 6 games. I did a piece with Rod Babers yesterday, and Rod just started laughing. I was like, do you think this team, especially, he goes, I don't care how bad the offenses they're playing are or could be. This 3 for 6, 3 touchdowns in 6 games is ridiculous. And you know what's interesting is, you know, they're not Anthony Hill and Colin Simmons are major disruptors and can be major disruptors, but they don't just have that. They're doing it as a unit. And that's why Jerry and I and Rod talked about communication and the importance of it last night in that live stream. They're doing it because they're playing as a unit right now.
Right.
Extremely well. It's not as good as they do have players, don't get me wrong, whether it's a Sorrell, Alfred Collins, Vernon Broughton playing really well, Jahdae Barron, we've mentioned Manny Muhammad. All these guys are good. The question I have for y'all, I mean, not the question, but the thought I have is they're not doing it necessarily with these unbelievable players yet. It's
from an NFL draft
perspective. Unit.
Right.
Yeah, it's more of a collective unit that they're doing it with. And so I think they're very detail oriented right now. It's really impressive.
And we're gonna move on to some more super chats here. We got quite a few of them, guys. So
hey, can I follow up real quick?
Yeah, go ahead, Jerry.
Bobby, chat. Georgia's going to score. You're not going to shut out Georgia. Good players, bunch of future NFL players. Somebody asked about their offensive line. Jared Wilson, they need to get him. Georgia needs to get him back at center because they've been last 2 games without center and All-American right guard. I don't think Ratledge will play. He's not expected back till Florida. That's considerable losses for the interior of Georgia's offensive line. Drew Bobo, Mike Bobo's son's been starting at center. But Jared Wilson, we'll see. I would be a little surprised if he's not back this week, so they may get their starting center back. But what would be acceptable for the chat if Texas held Georgia to 21? Because it's a good offense. They got NFL players. You're not going to probably shut them out unless they turn it over a lot. What would be acceptable? 17 to 21? All right, go ahead, Blake. I just wanted to ask the chat. What's the number you're looking for Saturday?
All right. Let's see here. Lost my place there for a second. Chat is moving very, very quickly. It's 420 somewhere. Thank you for the super chat again. Nothing washes down a win like OU tears. Have you seen the RJ Young meltdown on his podcast? Chef's Kiss beat Georgia next and hook 'em. I haven't seen it, but I heard about it. I haven't got to watch it yet.
Should be.
And then Brandon Morgan, thank you, Brandon, says Gunner has to be the leader for the Mackey, and Jake has to be leading for the Remington Award. Y'all's thoughts?
Potentially, but the tight end at Penn State's having a monster season too. He had a monster game against USC. Warren had 17 for 225 receiving.
Yeah,
I mean, he's on pace for 1,000 yards receiving out of the tight end spot. So it depends on how much Penn State. A lot of this comes down to who keeps winning at times. We'll see.
A tight end getting 17 receptions, he's going to win the Mackey
if he stays healthy.
Unfortunately. Yeah. I mean, that's just unheard of numbers. But I will say this: I think Gunnar Helms, if he's not your first team tight end right now, I don't know who is in the SEC. There'd be nothing wrong with that. That would be drastically exceeding expectations going into this year. Yeah. So very happy about that. As far as Jake Majors and the Remington, I don't know who he's up against for that award. So we'd have to see. But somebody that's a 4-year starter at that position for the number one team in the country is going to be on the award list. So unless there's a super freak, I would bet Jake Majors may be in line for that.
All right. David Keith Williams asked about baseball. I posted a bunch of insider notes over on TexasFootball.com this weekend, so you can always go there and read them. But no, probably won't have time for baseball talk today. Got a lot going on in here. Nathan with the super chat. Nathan says, "What are the updated draft projections for everyone eligible?"
Well, I'll jump out there on this one. Obviously, Banks, lock first rounder, potential top 10. You got to see how everything plays out, right? Because all they're doing is going to look for warts after when they get into the draft process. Oh, is he only 6'4", blah, 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 all that crap. But Kelvin Banks playing like a top 10 pick, potential top 5 pick. I think Cam Williams is going to be a first round pick, and I think he'll go pro unless something really changes. He's just playing too high of a level for a first year starter, and he's just going to keep getting better, and the NFL scouts love him, and I'll keep going with that. Quinn, rest of the season, Georgia game, all this is big for him. I think Saturday was the worst NFL tape he's had in a while. Is he healthy? It doesn't look like it. His Georgia game is going to be a big bounce back game for him. I think with NFL guys, Bobby, and the rest of the way. I think Isaiah Bond is looking like a potential first round pick. I think they have potentially 4 guys. Jahdae Barron's a draft pick. Matthew Golden's a draft pick. I mean, they have a ton of guys. If they just come out, they're going to be drafted. I think 11, 12 right now. Gunnar Helm.
Quinn definitely has to have a bounce back game.
Yeah.
That was not you mentioned it in the post game, Jerry, and grades. Quinn did not have, that was his worst NFL tape he's put out in a year plus.
Yeah.
Because he looked like he was seeing ghosts in the first quarter. Maybe he was worried about getting hurt. Maybe he was, doing whatever, but he did not look great in that first quarter. It was the worst first quarter he's played in a long, long time.
Yeah. And look, he'll play better than that.
Yes.
And if he doesn't, his NFL draft stock will take a hit. Look, he's played extremely well on the road at Alabama and Michigan and helping lead this Texas program back. But that question was just about NFL. Those guys don't give a dang. I mean, these guys look for warts. That's what they do. I mean, remember when Derek Johnson came out and he wasn't physical enough? Remember when Kevin Durant came out and he couldn't bench 185 pounds? These guys they're looking for warts. They know what these guys do really well.
We got some comment super chats I want to get through real quick. Jerry's Jack Links, we appreciate it as always. He says it's 67 degrees outside and OU still sucks. It did feel great this morning, which is why I got this 40 Acres apparel
long sleeve on.
Yeah, it felt really nice outside. And then Archmania says now we need Duluth Buck Naked underwear to sponsor. It'd be a natural fit. Question: do we want Brent Venables to stay as head coach at OU? I think so.
I think so too.
Yes.
I think it works really well when there are 2 defensive coaches at A&M and OU, and there's an offensive head coach at Texas. That puts Texas in a better situation. And I'm talking about recruiting wise and positioning wise.
Jack says, Bobby, you deserve some kudos. Kudos to Bobby for saying 2 years ago that Trey Wisener would be special.
Yeah, I felt like when running backs start bouncing off of people and are slashers, it's Jamal Charles comes to mind. I'm not saying he's Jamal Charles because he clearly doesn't have Jamal Charles breakaway speed, right? I mean, I love Trey, but Jamal Charles could have been an Olympian hurdler in my opinion. But you look at that and you see guys glancing off of tackles and making strong cuts. Jonathan Brooks did that early in his career at Texas too. And it's a rare trait that not many people have. And you see it a lot in the NFL with smaller running backs nowadays. the Isaiah Pacheco's of the world that the Chiefs have, right? And so Jahmyr Gibbs is another one that kind of glances off of people at times. So I like Trey a lot, and I think that he's also got a little. He's also a hard-nosed guy.
Very.
And it doesn't. You wouldn't. His body type doesn't fit that, right? You wouldn't think this guy's a hard-nosed football player, but then he gets out on the field, and that's all you see. So I'm a big believer in Trey Wiseman.
Hey, Derek Smith, just saw you put in a super chat looking for a comment around that time, but didn't see anything. So if you'll send it normal, I'll make sure to fix that for you.
I think it's right here. Blake.
Thank you, Bobby. Thank you. So Derek's super chat will say, do you guys think Quinn needs to start working that back shoulder fade? Last play of the game against Washington, if Quinn put that ball on AD, we win because it's either pass interference or a touchdown. And same with the Wingo in the end zone.
What do y'all think?
Well, the one the Wingo Saturday was just bad footwork. He wasn't in a position to make a throw. I mean, that was, and Sark kind of was chewing him out coming off to the sidelines on that was a footwork thing. But I will say this to the point of that question: what did Mississippi State do against Georgia, Bobby? They beat him deep.
Yeah,
Quinn's gonna have to throw it well deep this game.
Go routes.
Got to be accurate down the field. And Quinn is a stud in the intermediate game, as good as you will find in college football. I think Georgia's
what was so bizarre about his first interception, Jerry.
Yeah.
So bizarre about his only interception Saturday.
Yeah.
I mean, he had Matthew Golden wide open by 10 yards, and he overthrew him by 10 yards.
Yeah.
And Quinn is typically really, really good there.
Yeah.
I
think
nerves and seeing ghosts. One of the two.
If you're Georgia, do you try to force Quinn to throw it down the field and see if he's going to be accurate? I think
so.
A
little bit. And
I'm not talking intermediate. I'm talking man up, bring the pressure. All right, we're going to take a risk. We may give up a 50-yarder here, but let's see if he's going to make the throw.
All right. And then our next one from Eric says Bowman's comments almost seem like a brag on his own interception while completely sidestepping any accountability for all the defense's mistakes.
We gave it to him. You know, we had our opportunities. We just gave it to him. 34-3, dude. I mean, what is it with guys like Kyler Murray and Billy Mobin that just can't take the L?
Yeah, definitely. And one other by Eric says, appreciation post. You guys always kill it, but the amount of content this season has been awesome and really keeps me going on the road. Hook 'em.
Thanks, Eric. We appreciate you and other people that watch and listen. Hopefully we'll keep it going here, and hopefully Longhorns get another win, and we keep the momentum going too. Great stuff, man, right now going on in Austin. It's easy to cover this team. I'll put it that way. Both recruiting and the team itself.
Bill, thank you for the super chat, Bill. He says, I graduated from Texas in 89 and 92 and 95. My son is Oregon 22. My daughter's a junior at Pitt. We are 18-0, baby. Ranked 1, 2, and 20. Best first half of a college football season ever.
That's a super chat you never thought you'd get. Pitt's undefeated 6 games into the season. You expected the Texas and the Oregon because Ohio State was at Oregon, so you knew that was a coin flipper. But Pitt undefeated. I mean, how crazy is college football? I know we're on Texas football. We got a big game against Georgia, but BYU, Army, Navy, and Pitt are still undefeated.
Unbelievable.
BYU's has one of the best offensive turnarounds you'll ever see. Brent Venables, you might want to look that way to see what can happen. Because BYU couldn't get a first down at times last year against a good team.
And then we got one from UT Boy. Thank you, UT Boy, as always. He says, Bobby, tell Jonte and his family that you talk crap about him every Monday morning, that he is slow, can't block, and can't be trusted. See how that works for you.
What do you want me to say? I mean, to that. I'm not the one that put him in for only 4 plays on Saturday. That wasn't me. We comment on the players themselves and what they do. It's a critique. Jonte this year has fallen behind other receivers on the team at this point. There's a reason he only played four plays on Saturday. I don't think he was injured. So it's not me. And I do think he's behind those other guys. I think Steve Sarkisian is putting him behind those other guys. What do you want me to say? Make stuff up to make that? We can't do that in this business. You have to, I don't say anything negative about Jonte, mean-spirited. I don't wish him ill. I don't wish anybody there ill, but we have to, like Jerry graded Quinn Ewers on Saturday a D. Okay. You think Jerry doesn't like Quinn Ewers? Jerry loves Quinn Ewers and loves a family, all that stuff. We're here to talk about, what we see on a football field. And right now, Jonte's behind other guys. I'm not talking crap about him. I don't do that. Not the Longhorn players who Jonte, just as much as anybody else, puts his blood, sweat, and tears on that football field for Texas. And I'll be forever thankful for that. Okay? That doesn't have anything to do with the fact that right now he's probably the 5th best or 6th best receiver on the team. I didn't do that. He did it. Sark's the one deciding that, not me.
And by the way, for all these kids, and we talk about it when they're in high school, it's a process. Nobody's on the same developmental timeline. It's up to all these guys to maximize their talent. And the most difficult part for guys is, and to me, for the prospects in this, is high expectations, adversity, and how do you handle your development from there? Jonte, lot of talent. Now he's still in the developmental process. Where does he go? It's always up to these guys to maximize their talent. Now, Texas has a great strength and conditioning program, and they help, and they're really good in player development. All these guys have to go do it. So Jonte right now is in the biggest football challenge of his young life. Now he's going to, DeAndre Moore was in that last year. Jonte got on the field more than DeAndre Moore last year. DeAndre Moore sat there and copied Jordan Whittington. Said, I need to be this. And DeAndre Moore's on his way to maximizing his ability at Texas and beyond. Jonte's going to have to find his lane and go maximize that ability. But the races, these are long races for these guys, as long as they continue on with their process. Because Ryan Wingo is a different talent level than everybody else. His process, him and Jeremiah Smith and Ryan Williams, they're on their process is different than a Jonte Cook's process. So these guys got to fight through it, and they got to go continue to develop, maximize their talent, find their lane, find their niche, find their role, and go maximize that thing. There's a lot of guys that had long NFL careers playing roles. They figured out what they needed to do to get it done.
I'm going to say this to you, T-Boy, directly. I don't appreciate the connotation there that you think I'm somehow taking hits on players without I don't do that, man. I've never done that, and I've been in this business for 35 plus years. I will never do that. So there, you take it and go wherever you want to go, man.
All right, before we move on, guys, to our last, I'd say set of Super Chats, but there's quite a few of them. So big set of Super Chats. Bobby, can you tell everybody out there about Jerry, I'm sorry. Can you tell everybody about Longhorn Wealth Management Group?
I sure can. We'd like to thank our sponsor of Longhorn Wealth Management Group, John Donovan, a great sponsor here of On Texas Football. John's a certified financial planner who spent over 30 years providing investment, retirement, insurance, and estate planning services solutions to Longhorn families and friends across the nation, coast to coast. John looks forward to celebrating the Longhorns' continued consensus #1 ranking with OTF fans at the tailgate this Saturday in Austin prior to the top 5 matchup between Texas and Georgia, and wants to offer a free 90-minute consultation to all OTF fans to explore how Longhorn Wealth can help you to maximize your wealth, minimize your taxes, and secure your legacy. So simply call John and his team at Longhorn Wealth at 972-707-4900 or go online at www.longhornwealth.net to secure your free consultation today.
Thank you, Jerry. And as I said, guys, we got a lot more super chats. We're going to start here with David. Thank you, David. He says, I heard Rod say that this team has the potential to be a top 3 Texas team of all time. And I completely agree. I told my brother the other day that this team reminds me of the Joe Burrow LSU title team.
Wow. I think that Quinn has to step up a little bit to do what Joe Burrow did. But I think Texas has a better defense than that LSU team, and maybe not quite as good an offense. But Rod did say that. I mean, and he was talking about of the times that he's seen Texas, by the way, during his lifetime, not necessarily, you're not going back to 1969. You know what I mean? Or even the 77 team. I mean, he's talking about 2005, 2009, 2008, really, and here. And the numbers suggest Texas is as good as it gets right now on defense. We will see if that holds when they play Georgia, because Georgia is talented everywhere. But the complementary nature right now of Texas, they have an explosive offense and a defense that really can play the pass fairly well and get after the passer. That may make this team very, very difficult to deal with if you get into a playoff situation as well. I'm not so sure that Texas in a playoff situation might not be as good or better than they are right now, just in a situation where they're playing through the SEC schedule. I'm just going to put that out there. That's one of the things about this roster and what they've done and how it plays that might be really, really good.
All right. And then our next super chat comes from Menu 2 Sports. So we kind of touched on this just a little bit ago, guys. But Menu says, hey, guys, any concern with Quinn pushing the ball downfield when he needed to on Saturday? He didn't.
Yeah, so that was interesting. And I think he's going to play at a higher level this week, obviously, and he's got to. But, look, I'm not sure he's 100% healthy for that game. And I think you have to – one thing I'll say is I think there was a little protecting yourself in the pocket a little bit in that game. You did get sacked on the first play of the game. Rod said it last night. But, the one throw to Bond where DJ Campbell's getting pushed back a little bit on the bull rush, didn't really step into that. Now, it may have been a side issue thing, but I think we're going to see Quinn step into throws more this week against Georgia. I think you're going to see him play a much better game than he did against Oklahoma. I'll say that.
And then we have one from, it's 420 somewhere. Once again, thank you. You put in quite a few today, so we really appreciate that. He says, Colin Simmons played a mature game. There was a first quarter play where he called out the running back, stayed patient, and then met the running back for a loss.
Colin Simmons may be more patient than Anthony Hill as a player. And that's really surprising because Colin's the one with the unbelievable ball get off. That's a very astute comment, I think, 420 somewhere. Very astute. I noticed the same thing. And they used him to spy Michael Hawkins as much as they did Anthony Hill. That also tells you that they think Colin's patient. That's a good comment. I really like that and appreciate that one. And I saw it too.
And then our next one, fellas, comes from AR. And AR says, it's my first time going to DKR for the Georgia game, coming from DC. Do you have any tailgating recommendations? I bet you do, Bobby. And you guys are awesome.
Yeah, we will have a tailgate on site on Saturday. The guys at Duck Camp are going to be out there giving away free stuff, including refreshments. So come on out for that. But look, if it's your first time to DKR, Jerry always does the best job of saying this to people. It is a unbelievable experience for a football game with what Chris Del Conte, Drew Martin, and those folks have done with Bevo Boulevard, with the concert going on, with all the things you can do with family and friends. It is just a one-of-a-kind experience, in my opinion, in home games. Now, I will say this. this Texas State Fair this past weekend was unbelievable. I mean,
Yes.
there had to be 200,000+ people in the state fairgrounds, and only 75,000 people could go inside to watch that game. That was an amazing experience. And I think that's what I really do believe in some ways. That's what our friends at Texas, Chris Del Conte and those guys want to create for the Longhorns. There's also a wine garden there that you go into that we work with called Flat Creek Estate. So if you're with your wife, want a cool frosé or something like that, you can step in there. There's just so much to do around the state. Pinkerton's barbecue is on site as well. I love that. So just a lot of different things you can go around and do outside before the game. Go in. It's a 6:30 kick. Don't be later than 2:30, in my opinion, on Saturday.
Got to get there early.
It should be nice weather, all that stuff.
Got to get there. Hey, Arch Manny has one. How would you compare Javion Hilson, Cocoa Beach, 4-star plus edge coming in this weekend unofficially, to Colin Simmons? That is, I wouldn't compare those guys for me. I mean, you want a comparison, but Colin Simmons is the first, second, third step are so elite. There's not many guys you can even compare him to. Javion Hilson, maybe more in the, and I think Smith Orogbo has more natural just get off. He would be the in-between between Colin Simmons and Javion Hilson. Hilson may be more Colton Vosick, not as technically advanced because Colton's father coached him, but that type of athleticism off the ball with maybe a little more turn and run, if that makes sense. But Colin Simmons is just such a different level of cat as far as just get off.
I would say he's also got better body control maybe than Javion Hilson. Colin Simmons says that. Could be wrong, but we'll see.
All right, guys. And then our next super chat here comes from Texas Jasper. He says, I'm a little worried using our safeties to stop the run against a better passing team like Georgia.
Yes, that's the key. That's why I say somebody's going to get over the top of the safeties this week at Texas. I mean, if you got a guy that runs 10-2, he's fast. They've got fast guys, and they're going to try to pound the rock at times. And if they're successful doing that, then they're going to try to pound it and get your safeties pulled up and throw over the top. And I think that they're tremendous in doing that and have been very successful. And that's one of the reasons why they're a top 5 team and have lost one regular season game in the last 3 years so far. So Georgia's good. Texas is going to they're going to get beat sometimes. This is going to be a game about rolling with the emotions and being able to overcome and persevere. Georgia's going to hit you a little bit. They'll hit you in the mouth. You got to hit back.
We got a couple more, guys. This one here from Trace Little. He says, Billy Bowman is the biggest baby since Kyler Murray. Take the L.
Completely agree. That was ridiculous. But, look, when you can't admit you're wrong, that's a problem.
And then our last one, guys, and thank you, Britt Roscoe, by the way. I just saw your comment. David Parcell, thank you again, David. He says, every year Texas gets a disruptor from high school recruiting. Anthony Hill, Colin Simmons, and his 2024 pick is Lance Jackson.
That's what I love about this class. They have a number of disruptors. The Lance Jackson being one of those in the biggest frame. I agree. Smith Orogbo, disruptor. Elijah Barnes, disruptor. Elijah Barnes, disruptor at linebacker position at 6'2.5", 235. Jonah Williams, a disruptor, a big safety. That's what I love about this. By the way, Josiah Sharma is going to be a disruptor too, like Sean Rogers was. That's what I love about this Texas defensive class. To your point there, and I agree, Lance Jackson's upside is scary, but they have a number of big-bodied athletes that can be that in this defensive class. See how they finish this thing off. Javion Hilson's in town this weekend. A number of defensive linemen, Joseph Baktu, Walter Mathis, Justice Terry. Kevin Wynn, the FSU commit, I believe, still scheduled to come in. I'm going to double check on that, but he was Sunday night. There are a lot of guys, and there's some key pieces left in this class, but that's a great point on Lance Jackson. And it also tells you where this Texas defensive class, as far as disruptors is. It's a talented one.
Disruptors and playmakers. Those are the things you need. Just looking at Nick Townsend when I say that.
Yes. By the way, great point, Bobby. If he just played defense, he'd be one of the best. If he just played linebacker, outside backer, and that's the only tape you ever saw him, he would be. The sad thing is he'd be ranked in the top 30 in the country. But
he'd be ranked higher than he is as a tight end.
That's right. But I'm here to tell you, I saw the guy 2 weeks ago. He's a top 35 player in the prospect in the country. I don't care if he's a deep snapper. That guy is extremely talented. I literally watched him in practice. He's short snap, deep snap, tight end, flanks out the outside receiver, running back, wildcat quarterback, Mike backer, outside backer, kickoff return. The only thing he's punt block team. The only thing he doesn't play is kickoff team because he can't play everywhere at 235. That guy's disruptive when he puts on his cleats.
So I'm trying to say.
And if he plays tight end, he's going to be one of the best to ever do it at Texas, in my opinion. If he maximizes his talent.
Wow. Ivory, before we get out of here, Ivory wants to know, could we see Nick play both sides his freshman year?
I think that's tough. I mean, that would almost be – I think that'd be tough. I think, look, Jordan Washington combination with Nick Townsend and Sark's offense as pass catchers is downright pretty scary for me. I would play him at tight end because I think Texas is getting enough of those guys on defense. 7 years ago, you'd say he's got to play defense at Texas. Now you can play him at tight end, and I think he'd be just tremendous at tight end because he's so physical in the blocking game too. And you can do so much with him. You could do what you do with Juan Davis. You could do what you do with Gunn. You could literally do it all with him. And I would play him at tight end because I think he'd be unbelievably scary in the Texas offense, him and Jordan Washington as the pass catching duo at tight end in this group. But if somebody said tomorrow we're going to play him at linebacker, I'd say, well, he may be a first or second round pick there. He's that talented of a player, in my opinion.
All right, guys. Well, that's going to do it for today's episode of Coffee and Football, presented by John Donovan and Longhorn Wealth Management Group. We want to thank them, along with Factor, BetterHelp, and Tecovas for sponsoring today's show. Thank you all for the great questions, the super chats. Hey, there's no better time if you haven't already. Texas is 6-0. So you got to get in on that discussion, man. Head on over to ontexasfootball.com. Join in on the discussion. You can become a member for $39.95 using promo code OTFOG. You won't find a better deal out there. Lots of great stuff going on, especially this week after an OU win. Big Georgia coming to town. So it is the week to join if you haven't already. And then, Bobby, let people know what they're going to have later today right here on the On Texas Football YouTube channel.
Well, Sark's at 11:30 today. So we'll get hopefully we get a Derek Williams update from an injury perspective. If Sark is willing to discuss that, he'll recap a little OU and look ahead to Georgia. CJ Vogel is on hand for that for us. He'll be coming to us live from DKR. Then Rod, Coach Shipley, as well as CJ will be on with the winning drive. And Jerry and I are back with Talking Ball tonight. We'll be answering questions. Just straight questions tonight at 7 o'clock. To Blake's point, please sign up if you would. Become part of the OTF OG community on Texas football. We really appreciate you guys. And the more the merrier. The message boards this weekend were really fun. I'll put it that way. That was a lot of fun for me, and I appreciate you guys joining us very, very much.
That's all right. Well, we will be back same time, same place tomorrow morning. So for Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton, I'm Blake Monroe, and we'll see you then.
Have a good week.